She just wanted to save her daughter, but ended up fighting her own mother in another timeline. It had been 30 years. Everything had changed. People, cities, time, but some things, they were exactly the same. This is the story of Vari, a woman worn out by her tangled life. All she wanted now was peace. And maybe that's why, after all these years, she was finally returning to her old home. But what she didn't know was that this home would be the reason for her death. On this trip, she was with her little daughter, Min. That's when a call came in from a man named Yutachai. Vari didn't pick it up. In fact, the call made her even more scared. Maybe she was running away from Yutachai in the middle of the night. On the way to keep her daughter out of people's sight, Vari started a game they often used to play, where Vari would count to 10 and Min had to hide before she finished. By the time she got to 10, they had reached a gas station and Min had already hidden. Right after that, Vari filled up the tank and left Min in the car while she went to the shop to grab some food and snacks. Inside, she was clearly trying to avoid the cameras, like she didn't want to be seen and just vanished from there. But when she got back to the car, Min wasn't there. For a second, Vari froze and started calling her. Then suddenly, Min popped up from the seat next to her and gave her a scare. Vari finally breathed a little, but that was just the beginning. The real game was about to start once they reached Phang Nga. Vari drove non-stop for about 3 or 4 hours and then she started to feel sleepy. At one point, she barely missed crashing into a truck. So finally, she pulled over and decided to get some sleep, but she didn't even realize when it turned into morning. A police officer knocked on her window and told her not to sleep there, saying it wasn't a safe area. She agreed and left the spot, but she kept watching that cop closely, which clearly showed that Vari had done something that made her leave everything behind and run in the middle of the night. After a while, she reached her mom's house. The nameplate on the gate read, Jarukanan House, 1932. Both mother and daughter walked in. Back when she was a kid, Vari's room used to be upstairs. That's where she had spent her childhood. On the wall, her mom had marked her height. Now Min's height had reached that exact same mark. That's when we see a revolver in her bag. Just then, someone knocked at the door. Vari told Min to stay right there and not to open the curtains or anything. At the door was an old man, the caretaker of the house. Vari instantly recognized him. It was Uncle Nathi, and one of his eyes seemed to have been damaged in some accident. He said, "You know, your face reminds me of someone," but quickly changed the topic. 30 years ago, he used to work as a servant in this same house. He'd brought all the stuff Vari had asked for, even had a SIM card installed in her new phone by the shopkeeper. He said if she needed anything else, his house was nearby. While they were talking, Vari noticed the curtain on the window was open. She quickly said goodbye to Uncle Nathi and went to Min. She asked, "Why did you open the curtain even after I told you not to?" Min replied, "I've been sitting here the whole time. I didn't open them." Vari thought she was lying, but she wasn't. She really didn't open the curtain. Vari had also stolen some cash bundles along with her stuff, which she hid under the bed. Then she looked at herself in the mirror. Suddenly, someone placed a hand on her shoulder and vanished. Later that night, when the TV was turned on, Min saw a shadow in the reflection, which disappeared in a blink. The weather had turned bad too. Loud thunder and heavy rain had started. Vari rushed to shut all the windows. Meanwhile, Min noticed a room that was locked. She asked her mom, "What's inside that room?" But the truth was, even Vari didn't know, because back when she was a kid, her mom never let her go near that room. Maybe there was something important stored inside. So after cooking, when the two sat down to eat, the lights kept flickering on and off. That's when Min saw a shadow behind her mom. Vari turned around, but no one was there. Just then, that same figure appeared again. Min screamed the moment she saw it. Vari couldn't figure out why Min was acting so weird. Maybe it was the darkness that was scaring her. So she took Min with her to the generator room to switch it on. The generator was huge, way too big for just one house. But whatever, even after 30 years, the generator started on the first try. So the power issue was fixed, but that was only the beginning of their real problems. The next day, Vari had another strange experience. She was playing hide and seek with Min. Min closed her eyes and started counting to 20. Meanwhile, Vari went upstairs and hid under the bed in the bedroom. Once Min finished counting, she came looking for her mom. She looked around the room and walked out. A moment later, Vari came out from under the bed and followed her. That's when she saw Min walking away, but this time, she had a mask on. Suddenly, the masked girl ran into the study room and started drawing. Right then, the real Min found her mom, and the masked Min disappeared from the study. Vari looked around the room, but there was no sign of that girl. Now this study had turned into a storage room filled with old stuff. Min opened one of the boxes and found a bunch of Vari's childhood things. There was also a photo of Min's grandma, who had died before Min was born. Inside the box there were also paper dolls, the same ones Vari used to play with as a kid. Min wanted to play with them too, and while they were playing, they didn't even realize it had gotten dark outside. Min went to the main switch panel near the entrance and turned on all the lights, but the chandelier didn't light up. When she looked up, the chandelier was missing. Back when Vari was a kid, there used to be a huge one hanging there, but that chandelier held a terrifying secret, something Vari had no idea about. Not yet. That night, as soon as the lights went out, that same spirit appeared to Min again. She got so scared she didn't want to stay in that house for even a second. Her mom tried to explain, "Sweetie, this is our home now. We can't go back to your dad's place." The next morning, as soon as Vari woke up, she saw that same masked girl again. A second later, the girl pointed her finger toward Min, who was opening the window. Vari rushed over to her, but by then the masked girl had vanished again. Later that morning after breakfast, Vari took Min out for a drive to the beach. While they were there, Vari called Uncle Nathi and asked if there were any 5-year-old girls living nearby. Uncle Nathi said, "Our grandkids are all grown up now, and besides, there aren't any houses around here, just rubber trees everywhere." Then he asked, "Why do you ask?" Before Vari could answer, Min suddenly disappeared right in front of her eyes. Turns out she had just gone a bit far and hid behind a big rock. Vari spotted her and finally relaxed, and they both headed back home. Once they were back, Min started breaking her toys. She didn't want to stay here anymore. Meanwhile, Vari was thinking of turning this old house into a cafe and starting fresh. That's when she saw the masked girl again. Vari walked up to her and asked, "Where's your house? And how did you get inside?" Right then, Min quietly slipped out of the house. Vari ran after her. On the other side, Min had seen someone behind the rubber trees. She told her mom about it, but just like always, Vari didn't see anything. That's when Vari explained to her, if she went into the woods, her dad's people might take her away, or she could even get lost in the forest. So no matter what, she shouldn't go in that direction. Later, Vari checked her old childhood box and found that same mask she used to wear while running around the house as a kid. That night during dinner, the power went out again, and that spirit showed up once more to scare Min. Vari had no other place to go besides this house. Her daughter Min might have been scared to stay here, but they had no other choice. Thinking about all this, Vari slowly drifted off to sleep. Around 3 a.m., when the big clock in the hall chimed, Vari woke up. Standing in front of her was that same girl with the mask. Suddenly, she heard Min screaming upstairs. Vari rushed to her bedroom, and what she saw left her stunned. Min's bed was floating in the air. The door suddenly slammed shut. No matter how hard she tried, Vari couldn't get it open. Meanwhile, Min, terrified, had hidden inside the closet to get away from the spirit. The moment Vari managed to get inside the room, the bed came crashing down. After that, Vari searched the entire house, then grabbed a flashlight and went out into the forest, but there was no sign of Min anywhere. In the end, she had to call the police. A female inspector arrived to investigate. She was pregnant herself. Inspector Baluch, who came to look into Min's disappearance, noticed a few things, like the bruises on Vari's face, the old slippers lying near the entrance, and a broken patch on the floor. It looked like it had cracked from something heavy, maybe from a fallen chandelier. Putting all that aside, Baluch got straight to the point. Vari told her everything that happened around 3:15 a.m. But the inspector didn't believe her. How could a bed just float in the air on its own? Was Vari making it up? The inspector also asked about Min's father. Vari said they'd separated years ago. After getting all the details about Min, the inspector asked for a photo of her to move forward with the case. But Vari didn't have a single photo. It was in her old phone, which went missing before she came here. Not just that, she wasn't on social media either, so there was no photo of Min online. She'd searched the forest too, but there weren't even any footprints. That's when Baluch noticed blood on Vari's clothes and asked about it. Vari said she fell in the dark while searching in the forest and got hurt. The blood was from that injury. The inspector gathered every possible piece of evidence, but not a single one proved that Min was ever really there. Just her clothes lying around wasn't enough to confirm her presence. Meanwhile, Uncle Nathi showed up to check on them. That's when he found out Min had gone missing. Inspector Baluch immediately asked him, "Have you seen her daughter?" He replied, "Ms. Vari came here alone." Hearing that, Vari got even more nervous. She reminded him, "Min was standing at the window that day. You even looked at her." Now the question wasn't just about Min going missing, it was whether she ever even existed there in the first place. Baluch then asked, "Where exactly did you come from, ma'am?" Veri said she arrived from Bangkok this past Sunday. She told them every stop she made on the way. Based on that info, the police started digging. They pulled CCTV footage from gas stations and other spots. But Min was nowhere in sight with her. Meanwhile, Uncle Nathi, trusting Veri's word, went out with help from local villagers to search for Min. Sometime later, Inspector Baluch returned with her colleague Tai to question Uncle Nathi. That's when they learned that Nathi used to be a servant at Jarukanant House. He was Veri's mom's driver. Back then, Vari was only 8 years old. About 30 years ago, Vari's family moved to Bangkok, and since then, Nathi had been taking care of the old house. But there was a reason why they left it. Apparently, some crazy woman showed up out of nowhere and tried to harm the people living at Jarukanant House. Nathi had tried to fight her off, and in that struggle, he lost one of his eyes. As for the woman, she fell from the second floor and died. Nathi still had an old photo album from that time, with pictures from back in the day. One of those photos was of Vari as a child. On the other side, Vari, worn out and hopeless, went back into the study room to search for Min again. She didn't find Min, but she did find 2 old photo frames. Just then, a call came in from the police station, asking Vari to come in immediately. When she arrived, she saw they already had Uncle Nathi sitting in for questioning. The next moment, Vari was also taken to the interrogation room. There, the police showed her an old childhood photo. The moment she saw it, Vari said, "This is a photo of my daughter Min," to which Baluch replied, "This isn't your daughter's photo. It's a picture of you when you were a kid. You can't even recognize your own childhood photo? Are you mentally okay? Are you on any kind of medication?" Vari was left speechless. And to top it off, every camera footage the police had clearly showed that Vari never brought a daughter with her from Bangkok to this place. At that, Vari snapped and shouted, "My daughter was in the back seat of the car. That's why she's not in any footage." But what Detective Baluch said next left her completely crushed. By now, Baluch was starting to believe that Vari might have done something to her own daughter and was just making up stories to cover it up. She even took the blood on Vari's clothes as possible evidence. Maybe it was Min's. They wanted to run tests on it. Vari tore off the piece of fabric herself and handed it to the police because she knew that blood was from when she got hurt while searching in the forest. She also told them that her husband used to abuse her, kept her locked up, and she suspected that he might be behind Min's disappearance. But what she didn't mention was that she'd stolen money and even shot at her husband before running away. She had kept that part hidden. Then she called her husband and said, "You're the one who had Min kidnapped," but instead he lashed out at her. He didn't even know where she'd run off to. Baluch took the phone and explained the whole situation to him. To move forward with the case, she asked for a photo of Min. The moment Min's picture came through on her phone, Baluch was stunned. It looked exactly like the childhood photo of Vari. Identical. How was that even possible? That same night, the villagers held a prayer for Min's safety. After the ritual, the whole village, along with the police, joined in to search for her. They searched every corner of the forest, checked ponds and everything, but still, no sign of Min. Exhausted, Detective Baluch handed the search over to the villagers and a few officers, then returned home with Vari. That's when it started raining. Getting wet wasn't good for Baluch. She was pregnant. During their conversation, she shared that her own husband was just as cruel as Vari's. That's why she felt so connected to her case. Because of the rain, Baluch stayed at Vari's place. That's when she noticed the one room that had always been locked. Even though Vari had searched every inch of the house countless times, she had never looked inside that room. It had always been locked and she didn't have the key. Since they didn't have the key, they broke the door open, and what they saw inside left them speechless. There was a massive secret basement, and the staircase led down at least 2 floors. The 2 of them stepped down slowly, 1 step at a time. The place was filled with strange machines. Detective Baluch pulled a lever to turn something on, but the lights didn't come on. Turns out, that wasn't the light switch. Eventually, she found the main breaker and flipped it, finally lighting up the whole basement. In that light, they noticed old bloodstains on the floor, and right in front of them was a glass-holding cell, carefully sealed and covered. Baluch pulled off the cover and saw that the glass on the door was shattered. All these signs pointed to something serious going down in that basement. The whole vibe felt like a secret lab, but Vari had no clue about any of it. She'd moved away from this house with her mom when she was just 8. When the forensics team began their investigation, they found a strange circular burn mark on top of the glass cell. If it had been caused by a short circuit, it wouldn't have formed a perfect circle. Even more shocking, there was a similar burn mark directly above it, all the way up in Vari's bedroom. What was the secret of this house? Was Min really taken from right here? To find out, they sent hair from the bed and a toothbrush for DNA testing. After that, Detective Baluch went to see a doctor. Meanwhile, the villagers who'd been helping out returned, completely exhausted. After giving it everything he had, Officer Tay finally admitted that they had failed to find Vari's daughter. And Vari, she had no choice but to break down in tears. Later that night, someone broke into the house. Vari immediately called Detective Baluch to tell her. Baluch told her to hide and said, "Stay out of sight. We're on our way." But Min wouldn't listen. She said she had a revolver and headed toward the noise, thinking maybe the intruder was Min herself. Soon it became clear. The masked girl had entered the house again. She was standing there with her eyes closed, counting from 1 to 20. It looked like she really might be Min. As soon as Vari got close, the girl ran straight into Min's bedroom and hid. Vari followed her and saw everything in the room floating in the air, but the masked girl was nowhere to be seen. Then Vari noticed a glowing blue light coming from underneath the wardrobe. When she opened it, the masked girl suddenly pulled her inside. Vari's phone dropped to the floor. She completely lost consciousness. It felt like she was traveling through time. When she woke up, she found herself trapped inside a glass cell, and right in front of her, standing alive, was her mother. The story now jumps back 30 years, 1991. Vari was just 5 years old, getting ready for a beach day with her parents, but their whole plan got ruined. A technical fault at the power plant forced her mom, Panita, to head into work. This was her driver, Nathi, the same old man we saw in the present. Panita's team eventually found the issue and began their 36th experiment, but this time something different happened. A circular-shaped wormhole formed above the machine, and a sandal dropped out of it. Turns out Panita had been working on a time machine. That's why she could never give much time to Vari. Her husband was the one mostly taking care of her. Lately, that had been causing tension between them. One day, Panita snapped and said she couldn't just sit at home all day taking care of a kid. There was a maid for that. She didn't really mean it, but the words were already out. Still, the very next day, the family headed off on vacation. Vari was super happy. All she wanted was to play with her mom. But Panita was still stressed about work. That led to an argument in the car. Panita had pulled over and stepped out of the car. Vari sat crying in the back seat. "Mom, don't go!" Just then, a truck came speeding by and slammed into the car. The crash killed Vari and her dad. They died on March 14th, 1991. The funeral was held the very next day. Since then, Panita was stuck in that date, March 14, 1991, like a broken record. She kept wishing she could go back and change what happened that day. She even started seeing a psychiatrist, hoping it would help, but nothing worked. She blamed herself for her husband and daughter's deaths. Eventually, she gave up. She climbed up on the dam, ready to jump, when suddenly she saw a wormhole below. Startled, one of her sandals slipped and fell right into the wormhole. A wormhole that ended up reaching a different version of Panita in another timeline. That Panita realized there was still hope. She set up the entire machine in her basement, and after endless effort one day, she got it to work. The time machine finally powered up. Panita stepped inside, holding a picture of her husband and daughter, repeating the date of their death over and over. But moments later, the machine shut down again. This time, Panita was completely broken. She held her head in her hand when it broke down crying. Right when Panita was grieving her failure, the time machine suddenly restarted. A second later, a wormhole opened up inside the glass chamber, and a little girl fell out of it. That girl was none other than Vari's daughter, Min, the same Min who had vanished from inside the closet. Basically, this moment shows us exactly when Min disappeared from her 2021 timeline. That's why the wormhole mark was under the closet. So yeah, Panita had pulled Min from 2021 all the way back to 1991. When Min woke up, she started calling for her mom. She searched every corner of the house but couldn't find her. Nathi, the house servant, saw her and asked questions too. Panita lied, saying the girl was her distant relative's daughter. But Nathi didn't buy it. Min looked more Chinese, which didn't match Panita's pale-skinned family. At this point, Panita had quit her job and was spending all her time with Min. All the things she never got to do with her daughter Vari, she was now doing with Min. She took her to markets, bought her whatever toys she liked. She's the one who bought Min that mask and those paper dolls. Panita played hide-and-seek with her, told her stories, did everything her real daughter had once asked for before she died. But even after all this, Panita still didn't feel better. One night she tried again. Maybe this time she could go back and bring her husband and daughter back. At that moment, Min was wearing the mask, playing around. But when Panita turned on the time machine, a glitch caused Min to see the 2021 version of Vari, so Vari ran after her. And the moment she opened the closet, she got pulled straight into 1991 through the time machine. Seeing her mom in front of her, Vary thought she had died and somehow ended up in hell with her mom. But Panita freaked out. That girl kept calling her Mom over and over again. Panita was losing her mind. She had no idea why this random girl was calling her that. She quickly snatched the revolver from her and locked her up, then ran out of the basement. Vary kept pleading, but there was nothing she could do. Meanwhile, back in 2021, things got even more chaotic, because now, along with her daughter, the mother was missing too. During a search of the house, cops found $1 million baht under her bed. So the question was, if Wari really wanted to run away, why would she leave the money behind? Even her car was still parked outside. The case was turning into a complete puzzle. During the search, they also found 2 old photo frames. Natie recognized them right away. They were pictures of the house owner, Panita Jarukanan's husband and daughter. Officer Tai asked, "So what kind of work did Miss Panita do?" Turns out she was a professor and also worked as an engineer at the hydroelectric dam nearby. Tay followed up, "Why is there a lab in the house? What was she experimenting on?" Nady didn't know anything about that. Panita never let the servants go anywhere near the basement. Meanwhile, Panita brought food to that strange girl in the basement. She asked, "Who are you? Where are you from?" Right after eating, Wari replied that she lived in this house. She explained she was looking for her 5-year-old daughter Min, when somehow she ended up here. After hearing this, and realizing that this strange girl's daughter was the same Min she'd been raising, Panita just froze. Without saying anything, quietly escaped from the basement. Somewhere deep down, Panita had already started seeing Min as her own, and she wasn't ready to lose her again, not after losing her real daughter Wari. Back in the 2021 timeline, Detective Balak found a major piece of evidence, a 1991 case file tied to the Jarakanan house, which included a revolver. Just skimming through the report was enough for Balak to piece together what had happened back then. And now the same incident was about to repeat itself in the 1991 timeline. Ms. Panita assigned Naté to guard the strange girl in the basement, and just in case something went wrong, she handed him Wari's revolver, so he could use it if needed. Vari tried to trick him, asked him to open the door, and when he didn't fall for it, she faked passing out, pretending she couldn't breathe. As soon as Nady opened the cell, she shoved him and made a run for it, but the basement door was locked from the outside. Right nearby, her daughter Min was counting out loud. Hearing her voice, Wari called out to her. The moment Min peeked through the little hole, Nady grabbed Wari again. Just then, Panita showed up. She gently told Min to go away and then locked Wari back up. Meanwhile, the serial number on the revolver revealed that it was made in 2000 and licensed to Wari's husband in 2006. So how the hell did it end up in the 1991 evidence file? What they didn't realize was that the revolver had traveled back in time with Wari from 2021. In that same evidence file, they also found a phone number, and as soon as Balak saw it, the entire case made sense to her. Before leaving, she told Tai, "Wari's still in that house, but in another time. She's stuck in the past, and everything that's happening to her now is already written in this 1991 report." Without wasting a second, Balak jumped in her car and headed straight for the Jarukanant house. Meanwhile, in the 1991 timeline, Nati was standing guard, listening to the news on the radio. The reporter announced today's date, November 24th, 1991. Wari heard it and froze. That's when it hit her. She really had traveled back in time. She told the man her name was Wari and that she came from the future. She said Panita was her mom, but she didn't recognize her, and they were keeping her daughter Min locked up. But the guy showed her a photo of a young girl and said, "Our Wari died in a car crash last year. You better keep your mouth shut." Still, Wari wouldn't stop yelling. Frustrated, the man walked off to the basement door. That same ghostly figure had started appearing to Min again. Back in the 2021 timeline, Wari's husband had also joined the investigation. And he wasn't just anybody, he was a colonel. For the past 30 years, the cops had never figured out whose body was found in that house. The face had been burned so badly they couldn't ID it. With all this new info, Yutachai requested permission to go to the Jarukanant house. At the same time, Detective Balak had already made it there. She was digging into the background of that mysterious woman who'd fallen to her death from the second floor. Who was she really? Back in the 1991 timeline, Wari found a small chunk of stone inside the cell. She used it to smash through the worn-out glass wall and managed to escape. Hearing the shattering glass, Nati rushed down to the basement with the revolver. But before he could react, Worry attacked him, stabbing his eye with a shard of glass. The moment she realized it was Uncle Nati, she stopped. She let him live and ran straight to her daughter's room, where Min was fast asleep. Just as she was about to wake her, Panita showed up, grabbed her, and dragged her out of the room. Shaking her, Panita screamed, "How did you get out? Are you here to hurt my daughter?" Worry broke down crying. "No, Mom. I'm your daughter. The one sleeping in there is my daughter. Min, I came here from 2021. Please give me my daughter back." But Panita wouldn't hear it. She wasn't going to give Min up, no matter what. Desperate, Worry pointed the gun at her mother, but couldn't pull the trigger. And in that moment, Panita pushed her hard. Worry slammed into the chandelier and fell 2 stories down. A second later, the chandelier came crashing down on her face, leaving it completely burned. Meanwhile, in 2021, Detective Balak had cracked the case. The phone number found in the 1991 evidence file? It was hers, the same one she'd given Worry the first time they met, which meant only one thing. Worry really had time traveled to 1991, and now everything written in that file was happening for real. Right then, Utachai showed up at the Jarakanan house with the cops. The moment Baluch saw him, she broke down. If you hadn't beaten Worry, she would have never run away to this house. She blamed Utachai for both Worry and Min going missing. Meanwhile, in 1991, after Worry's death, the police found a number on her body. But back then, cell phones didn't mean anything. They assumed it was maybe a lottery number. Then came the DNA report, and everyone was shocked. There were 2 samples, one from Worry and one from Min, but the report showed that both samples belonged to the same person. How could that be? How could a mother and daughter have identical DNA? Around the same time, Baluch got transferred, and Panita took Min to a doctor. Turns out Min had suffered major trauma and lost her memory. Panita took advantage of that and lied. "Your name is Worry, and I'm your mom." After that, they shut the time machine down for good and moved to Bangkok. But Worry's spirit was still wandering, trying to get her daughter back. Yeah, the ghost Min kept seeing. That was actually her mother, Worry's spirit. Back in Bangkok, Min's schooling happened, and she spent her whole childhood there. And as she grew up, she started looking exactly like her real mom, Worry. Slowly, Panita started to realize that the girl she had pushed from the chandelier all those years ago wasn't just anyone. It was Worry, from a different timeline, who had probably been raised by another version of Panita in some other timeline. Maybe that's why she was calling 1991 Panita Mom. All these thoughts drove Panita insane, and not long after, she died losing her mind. Then one day, Worry fell in love with Colonel Utachai, and soon they got married. A year later, they had a daughter and named her Min. For a few years, things were okay, but then their marriage started to fall apart. Utachai became abusive, hitting Worry all the time. She kept asking for a divorce, but he wouldn't let her go. Finally, she'd had enough. She stole 10 lakh baht from Utachai, and the night he came home, she told Min to hide in the closet as part of a game. Then she pulled a gun on Utachai and said, "Let me and my daughter go, or I'll shoot you." But of course, he didn't listen, so Worry pulled the trigger, and the bullet hit the closet where Min was hiding. With that same gun, she grabbed Min and ran away, headed for her mother's old house out in Phang Nga.